I'm here to talk to you today about things that suck. Things like vampires, leeches, and in this case, me. Yes, I, Kevin from Hedgehog Games, suck. But what do I suck at? Not blood, no, that's gross, that's gross. What I suck at is video games. Now, whoa, hold up, wait a minute. You might be thinking to yourself, Kevin, you've done lots of reviews. Yes, that's true, I have done lots of reviews. And for most of the reviews that I play, I try to complete the entire game. That way when you see the review, you see everything that I know about the game, and not only that, you can see the game if it has a story from start to finish. But how can I suck at things like video games if I do reviews on them? Well, trial and error is a big part of it. You gotta keep going, even if you're bad at it. A lot of the times when you suck at something, it's all in your mind, and your mindset says that you're doing bad, so you have to stop, quit playing, give up, go home, just quit. But that's not the case, especially with video games. Video games is the prime example for this. The top 3 series, and these are going to be kind of surprising to some of you, because these are major mainstream video game series, and they're ones that I admittedly really suck at. Alright guys, we're jumping into this list of games that I suck at, and number 3 is actually a really popular franchise mascot of Sega, and that is none other than Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, I didn't really think about this until I started forming this list. Sonic the Hedgehog is a game series, not just the game, but the entire series that, on my memory, I don't think I've ever completed a Sonic the Hedgehog game before. And I have a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog games. I have Sonic the Hedgehog 1, I have just about every Sonic game on the Genesis, even Sonic and Knuckles, and Sonic CD, and Sonic Christmas Blast, which is a movie. But I'm actually a really big fan of Sonic, I enjoy it. I have Sonic Mania on the Nintendo Switch, I have Sonic games on GameCube and other consoles, and I really do like Sonic. I know the characters, I know the gameplay, I get the series. I was around in the 90s when Sonic was being introduced on the Genesis. Sonic the Hedgehog is one of my favorite series and one of my favorite characters, but aside all of that love for the series, I've never completed one of their games. Now this is a game that I'm not really that bad at, but just the fact that I've never completed one is kind of a weird sign to me that I just didn't realize until today. In the first Sonic the Hedgehog game, the main thing I gotta do and work on is just sticking with it. If you get to a part where you get stuck, just keep on going. Sonic the Hedgehog is a game that's not that difficult compared to most platformers, especially those that came before it on the Nintendo NES and other 80s consoles. But Sonic the Hedgehog does offer a unique improvement upon those games, and that is its sense of speed. Now, while I am able to make it a good portion of the way through most of the Sonic the Hedgehog games, there does come to a point where it just gets a little too hard for old Kevin. But I know with some practice and some set-aside time to play through one of these Sonic games, I know I can complete at least one of them sometime in my lifetime, because I didn't even realize until today that I haven't beaten a single Sonic the Hedgehog game. And that's bad. That looks really bad. But that is one of the top 3 games that I just suck at. Sonic the Hedgehog. Alright guys, are you ready for number 2? Because this is a mega game that is going to amp up this list. Number 2 of games that Kevin sucks at is a big one. But it's a little bit different reasons than the last game. And that game is Mega Man, or the Mega Man series. And there's a reason why I'm showing you on the GameCube. That's because I've never actually bought a Mega Man game. And I don't have any Mega Man games in my collection except for this and some of the spin-offs. But Mega Man is a game series that I like the character, I get the premise, I understand what's going on in the story, and the idea of the gameplay. It's a side-scrolling shooter where you get power-ups from defeating each of the bosses. And then you can use those power-ups to help you get an advantage over the other bosses, which is a really cool mechanic. I love that. And this is a really fun series. It's great, it has great visuals, awesome, amazing rockin' soundtrack. There's a reason he's called Rockman in Japan. Well, I don't know if that's the reason, but Mega Man is a really fun series, and I do, to an extent, enjoy playing it. It's kind of the feeling of like, you're doing push-ups, and you want to do more, but it hurts. It's kind of like when I play Mega Man. It hurts, but it's kind of like a good hurts, but sometimes you just don't want to do it, you know? I don't know, it's like, I just gotta push myself to jump on through Mega Man and defeat Dr. Wily once again. Now, looking at the entire series, there's a lot of games. Actually, I have completed 2 Mega Man series games in the original series. And that was Mega Man 2 on the NES, and Mega Man 10, which is a pretty easy one, and I did play it on easy mode for number 10. But with these games, and its sequel series Mega Man X, and further on series, there's a lot of Mega Man games, they all share pretty similar gameplay mechanics, and that, for some reason, it's hard for me. You know, I've played a lot of games in my life. I've played a lot of platformers. I actually regard platforming games as my favorite and also the best genre that I'm the best at. You know, like, if someone asked me what games do I like to play, I'd say platforming games, and I'm also really good at them. I like to play Castlevania, Contra, Mario. Zelda 2 is one of my favorite Zeldas because it's a platforming game and reminds me of Castlevania, which Castlevania is my favorite series, Super Castlevania 4 being my favorite game of all time. So you know I love platforming games, especially those with a challenge. So why don't I like Mega Man? It's kind of baffling to some people, like, they're like, oh, why don't you like Mega Man, Kevin? That seems like it would be a perfect fit for you. Especially since I also like Metroid, and that's a shooting platformer. But Mega Man is just... it's so hard to me to figure out what weapons to use against which enemies. Most of the time, I can actually make it through any of the levels without trying too hard on most of the games that I've played, which are only Mega Man 1, 2, and 3, 9, and 10, and then I've played the first one for the Game Boy. So in the original style series, those are the ones I've played, by the way. But the hardest part for me is the boss fights. I always feel like I have such a disadvantage on the boss fights that I should just give up, go home, you know, quit, call it quits, just surrender, no more Mega Man, and then I get mad, I get frustrated, might even throw the controller or something. Back in the day I might have done that, but you know, now that I've got the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, I know this is a little different, but on the game Mega Man X, which was included with the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, I started playing it a little bit more, and I started looking at reasons why I had a hard time with the bosses, because it has similar mechanics to the original series in terms of the boss fights, which is what I was doing bad at. And I realized that it comes down to patterns, and that's weird because usually that's something I think about first when I look at platforming games. When I go to Castlevania 4, I have every pattern of every enemy and boss memorized when I play it, so I know exactly where to go and exactly what to hit when I fight those enemies. Now Mega Man, I just haven't given him enough time. I need to give it more time, and that way I won't suck at the bosses because I'll know their patterns and figure them out. Now this is a faster paced game than most of the Castlevanias, in my opinion, and of course it has different attack patterns and stuff like that because you're shooting at a ranged ability, not whipping like Castlevania. But it also follows those same patterns and those same rules as other platforming games. You know, like, you've got to memorize the patterns of the bosses in order to beat them. So it kind of gives you the illusion that your weapons that you get from the bosses, the robot masters, are going to help you. And they do help you to an extent, but that doesn't mean that the robot masters are impossible to defeat without them. If you know the patterns and you don't get hit and you keep hitting the boss, you're going to win. It's that simple, just figure out the patterns. It seems simple just saying it like this, but when you're playing it, it's harder than it appears. But that's just something I gotta sit down and work at with on Mega Man video games. Alright guys, are you ready for number 1? This is the top game that Kevin sucks at. This is a classic series once again, and it's a really fun series, and I know not a lot about it, but I know a little bit about it. I mean, I can recognize the characters just by looking at them, and I can recognize some of the attacks. I know a lot of the sound clips, I like the quotes and memes based on this series. But what is this series? Well, it's a big one once again, and that is Mortal Kombat! Yeah, Kevin sucks at Mortal Kombat. He really does. And the weird thing is, I love fighting games. Now, fighting games is a genre that actually is really interesting because if you think about fighting games, martial arts takes a lot of training to perfect and perform. The same thing goes with fighting games. In a lot of fighting games, you have movesets, you have skills, you have special attacks, super attacks, powers, different combos you have to execute with precise button presses, and you know, a lot of the time with fighting games, training is what really makes it good. That's why a lot of the times fighting games have a training option right on the main menu. You can train either with a CPU or with a friend, and either way, it kind of resembles the martial arts training of real life. Now, Mortal Kombat is one that I grew up in the early 90s. Mortal Kombat was huge. Not only was it controversial because of the violence and the blood and gore in this game, it was hugely popular with pretty much anyone that loved video games back in the day. But despite its popularity and despite my familiarity with the Mortal Kombat series, which is actually only limited to about the first 3 games and a couple of them on the GameCube PS2 era, I didn't play most of the more recent ones. But the first 2 Mortal Kombat games are very challenging for me, and I'll explain to you why. It's kind of funny because the competition in Mortal Kombat back in the day was Super Street Fighter 2, and Super Street Fighter 2 I'm alright at. I'm not the best, but I can play through story mode with any character and be able to complete it on a normal difficulty. I can play against someone on Versus and have a fair chance at winning. I can have a lot of fun with Super Street Fighter 2, and its other spin-offs. But Mortal Kombat is a game that, while I still have a lot of fun with it, and I enjoy it, I really suck. And what I mean by that is, I have the hardest time with this game. To me, it feels very fast. It feels like the movements are faster than Street Fighter. It also feels like you have less health, like your attacks that you get on yourself take more damage. So you last longer and you move faster. And a lot of that kind of gets in the way of my gameplay. Now, additionally to that, there is combos and stuff like that in this game. There's finishers called fatalities, where you can finish off the opponent in a special combo, and it'll activate things in the arena or special attacks depending on which character you use. I've never been able to figure out any of those. Now, at the same time, I can pull off Hadoukens, I can pull off the supers in Super Street Fighter and stuff like that. I can, for other game series, I'm actually better at 3D fighting games like Tekken, your Soul Calibur, your Dead or Alive, your Bloody Roars. And so on the 3D fighting games, like moving on to the PlayStation generation, you've got a pause menu where you can look at all your move combo lists. I can pull off a 10-hit combo with my Moa Yoshimitsu on Tekken and Soul Calibur, she's in both. And, I mean, I love playing fighting games. I really do enjoy these games, and I enjoy Mortal Kombat. The only thing that always bugs me is how badly I do in Mortal Kombat. I barely can make it to the second fighter in Mortal Kombat 2, and that's on very easy difficulty setting. There's a very easy setting, and I can't even make it past, barely, on a rare chance I can make it past the first fighter, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint why I'm bad at it. It could be because I need to learn the movesets, which doesn't say in-game. It also could be because it's fast and you hit harder. But the good thing about Mortal Kombat is you can still have a lot of fun with it even if you suck at it. Due to its graphics and sort of level of dark comedy and gore and violence, you can actually enjoy it just by playing along with it. Even though I was losing for about an hour during my gameplay session of Mortal Kombat 2, I still had a lot of fun playing it. I mean, I recognize all the characters from back in the day. I know the voice clips like Toasty and Get Over Here and stuff like that. And I know all the characters like Raiden, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, all those characters. For these reasons and more, Mortal Kombat is my #1 game series that I suck at. Admittedly, I really do. I'm terrible at this game. Alright, so that was my list of top 3 games that Kevin from Happy Beard Games sucks at. And those games were Sonic the Hedgehog series, the Mega Man series, and #1 was the Mortal Kombat series. Now, in regards to this video's subject, I'm not by any means necessarily putting myself down or putting others down for sucking at video games. The point of this video is that you learn from your mistakes, and with training and some effort put into it, you can accomplish anything in a video game. Now, with these games, I just need to give them more time, more practice, and more concentration to learn those patterns and get good at these specific video game series, because these are classic series, and these are games that I love and I know a lot about, but I'm just not very good at the gameplay yet. And that's weird to me because these are games that have been around since, some of them before I was born, and they've been around the entire time that I've loved video games, and I just need to get to that point where I set aside the right time to play and complete these games. Alright guys, thanks for watching this episode of Happy Beard Games. This was a fun top 3 list of some games that I suck at, admittedly. Is there any video games that you, admittedly, come on, admit it, you know there's a couple games at least that you just suck at, you can't play. Be it a first-person shooter, an MMORPG, or anything else. Alright guys, thanks for watching this episode of Happy Beard Games. If you want to support my channel, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel. Also check out my Twitter page and my Instagram page. The links for those are found in the description box below this video. Alright guys, that's it for today's Happy Beard Games. Bye!